What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the JJ Sports Podcast. I'm Joey.
I'm Josh.
And let's get into our first topic of the day. We're talking basketball right now. And Josh, there's nothing else to talk about except Knicks are rolling right now. The New York Knicks, the team that everyone craps on for no reason, really no reason, are in not the 9th seed, not the 10th seed, not the 8th seed, not the 7th seed. They are in the number 4 seed in the Eastern Conference, Josh, and they are on a 3-game winning streak. So before we get into each game, just tell me your initial thoughts, Josh.
Yeah, my initial thoughts is, like I said, I know I've said this a lot, but I'm gonna keep saying it, and I know that this is, they're riding a very good streak recently. They've won 7 of their last 9 games, so they're 7-2 over that stretch. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 3 straight. They've welcomed fans back to the Garden, and that's given them a boost. But I keep saying it, I don't know that they're ready to be considered a legitimate team that's going to compete. I said I don't expect them to be competing, for a tough spot. Now, my expectations have grown, a little less in that regard to them not competing, and have grown to the point that I think, it's definitely not like they've proven me wrong. They've definitely changed my thought. I don't think that they'll be hovering around the bottom of the conference. I think that they'll be fighting for one of those last couple spots. I don't think they'll end up as high as the 4 seed because I think, we see it. Miami's right behind them in the standings, and they were well down in the standings. They were out of the top 10 just a week or two ago, about a week and a half ago, and look at it. They've won 6 straight. We looked at them when they were 9-14. They were 5 games under. Well, they've clearly climbed back from that. They've beaten the Knicks twice. As for the Celtics and Raptors, they're all 3 of those teams, the Heat, Celtics, and Raptors, are all 17-17. So Knicks are only a half game ahead of them, but the Knicks can compete with those guys. We know, and they're, as mentioned on the postgame show last night after they beat Detroit, they aren't a superstar team. We obviously want to give credit to the fact that Julius Randle is going to be an all-star, but at the same time, they're not a superstar team. So they have to work very hard. And if you want to credit certain players for stepping up, then do that. If you want to credit the coaching staff, then do that. But they fight hard. They're proving they're definitely not a fluke. So my thoughts are that, look out, because they're not ready yet, but they're up and coming very slowly, and they're starting to put it together.
Yeah, well said. I think as well that you should be happy, but not over exaggerated because of the records, right? They're all so close with Miami and Boston and Toronto. They're all super, super, super close. So, be happy we're above 500 for the first time in years. So that's something to be happy about. But I guess it's more of a just wait and see. But I think it's safe to say this is a playoff team. I think I'm finally ready.
They very well could be. And I'm not even talking the playing rounds, because I absolutely know this year they've implemented that the 9 and 10 spots are going to have a chance to play in the playoffs, or play in, similar to what the NHL did with the playing round last postseason in the bubble, with teams that could have theoretically made the playoffs with the remaining games in the season. Such as the Rangers, the Canadians, the Florida Panthers were among those group who weren't locks but had a chance, were on a streak or within a couple points. Same thing, but the Knicks are going to do, not the Knicks, excuse me, the NBA is going to do that this year. And I think that the Knicks, at the very least, the way they've been playing this season, could definitely end up in the top 10 in one of the 9 or 10 spots. But now, a lot is making me believe they might even get one of the bottom half spots within the top 5 to 8. And if they do even better than that, then, great for them. Like I said, I'm not going to expect anything great from them, to go deep into the playoffs or even to be a lock to make the playoffs in the first place. I'll root them on. And it's been fun to watch, to say the least.
Yeah, So like let's get into the 3 games they won, because we didn't talk about them as much, right? Last time we spoke, they had lost to the Warriors, right? By like
Actually, I don't think so. I think that was before even, because we did Monday and that game was on Tuesday. So I don't believe we have.
okay, whatever. So 4 games. They lost to the Warriors, was very close.
Right.
Some people
But
say the refs had some weird instances in that game. But then
yes, there
after
were some
that,
positives though.
yeah, but after that though, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit. I do remember, yeah, again, Julius Randle had a great game as always. Elfrid Payton, that was one of his last starts. He also had a solid offensive showing, so good for him. And Derrick Rose coming off the bench. That was his last time on the bench, I think, this game. Still solid showing, right? And then so then we get to and then this is where it all I think this is how it's going to stay now. I think this is the move. So before we get into it, what do you think about the move or the switch from Elfrid Payton to Derrick Rose as our starting point guard?
Well, I just want to point something out. Some positives other than the fact that certain individuals performed well against the Warriors despite the loss. Fans were welcome back to the Garden. Knicks didn't get blown out. They were in it the whole time. Really, just late. They weren't able to pull away, and it's going to happen when you're playing against guys like Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, the guys who not necessarily Wiseman with the experience, but his physique and what he can bring to the table. With Curry, we know he's a 2-time MVP, multiple-time NBA champion. Same with Draymond Green, except without the MVP. Wiggins was first overall pick, so there's still a lot of promise regarding him. And they bring guys, and they're playing without Klay Thompson. So give them credit for battling hard still, because that team could be a lot better if Thompson was there, and they will be a lot better when he returns. As for what the Knicks could take out there, beside the fact, it was a hard-fought game. It's not like they were ever really completely out of it. So welcoming back fans, obviously gave them a boost. But I think the thing that more people are going to look up to or look at, despite the obvious was the fans hadn't been there in nearly a year, is that Julius Randle was officially named to the All-Star team. So congrats to you, Randle. I know we didn't have the opportunity to talk about that in our last episode. We were debating who we would have to beat out and everything. So those are the 2 things. Now moving on to this game, it's the Knicks' highest score of the season. 140. And it's the first time they did that this entire. Not only this decade, obviously it's the start of a new decade, but for the first time since before 2000, I'm nearly positive the last time they did it was in the late 1900s. They put up 140. I don't remember who that was against, but I believe that was the last time they did it. And again, they pulled one game within 500. Sacramento is not a great team, and we both know that. Record-wise, they're not great, but they do have some nice players on that team. Obviously, you got Harrison Barnes with the experience. You've got De'Aaron Fox, who's an excellent guard. Buddy Hield, who's a good 3-point shooter, but didn't put too many points up on the board. And then the bench is kind of just that you could, there's not much to offer there. So obviously, the Knicks, you would hope the way they've been playing basketball, we're going to come out with a win. It was the first time they won in front of their fans in the Garden. So that definitely helped them out. They wanted to rebound after a tough loss to the Warriors, and they got it done. Randle, only 6 assists shy of a triple-double. It's nice to see guys like Nerlens Noel start to pick up the scoring. He's only averaging 3 or 4 points a game, but over the last couple of games, he's scoring anywhere from 8 to 12 points a game. So it's nice to see that. He had 8 points in this one. He only had an assist. But we know Joey. He's an excellent defender. I think he's now, after last night's game, which we'll get to, I think he's 5th or 4th in the NBA right now in blocks per game at just under 2 blocks a game. And the rebounds, what you're getting with him. His minutes obviously have gone up still with the absence of Mitchell Robinson, but he's only been getting better, honestly, as a starter. That's what I think. You could tell that he's trying to step up to the plate, and he has accepted the role and the challenge that, he's going to be seeing more time than he's used to this season so far, but it's working out. He hasn't shied away from it. He's done a great job. As for Derrick Rose off the bench, well, not off the bench, actually. This was the first game that he started as a Knick since 2016-17, and he continues to put up double figures in points every game. I think his lowest he's put up is 14, and he's done that a couple times. So it's not even like, you're just going to say, only 14 points. No, he's a very consistent guy, and he penetrates. The assists is still a pretty good number. Barrett, I know wasn't super, like electrifying as he has the ability to be, but for the amount of takes he had, he was very consistent and he was very smart about it. Alec Burks, we know in the fourth quarter what he did. If you watched that game, I would assume you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know what
He
he
scored
did.
like every minute he was on the floor, he scored a point.
Yeah, 24 points in 25 minutes. I mean, that's excellent. And it's nice to see, like the minute balance in this game because they were blowing out the Kings really almost that entire, from around halfway in the third to the rest of the game. So you see guys like Obi Toppin getting more time. Even Kevin Knox and Theo Pinson got in the game. They haven't been in games for a long time. Frank Linkino welcomed back, obviously, dealing with COVID issues, injuries, all that stuff. Taj Gibson playing 24 minutes. And even though now he's the number 2 center, he's not playing, he's still not playing 20 or more minutes a game, So it's good to see that. And I mean, I don't know. I like where this team is right now. I like the way they've played. And this was a statement game. I know it was against a weak team, but you can come out and still put up 140 points. It's showing, like they're going to come out and now try to become one of those teams that might not beat the greatest teams, but you'll put up a fight and you're going to go to work and you're going to rack up wins against the teams that are subpar, that really aren't in contention for anything. That's all I have to say about a win like this.
I mean, I could say a little bit more. I mean, thinking about just like our bench is phenomenal. What Alec Burks does, we all know he can shoot, right? And then you go into Emmanuel quickly. He's only had 20 minutes and he still put up more points than he played for. 25 points in 20 minutes. I think this guy is amazing. And you got other people there doing their part, Taj Gibson a little bit. Frankie isn't doing so bad. You got Obi, who, he's not doing so bad in the scoring, but I just heard today he's going to be in the slam dunk contest. So that's
Yeah,
exciting for him.
it's good. That was it. I think at the end of last week. So another thing, you got another Nick headed to All-Star weekend, and I was wondering if last second they were gonna put Julius Randle in the 3-point contest because now he's shooting over 40% from 3-point range. I don't know if they did, if it's too late, or if they don't even have anyone yet, if he was in consideration. But I mean, either way, just to see, he's already an All-Star for the game, so not gonna complain. Beyond that, just to know who's in there, in the other competitions.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was that game, right? And then we played against the Pacers, which, usually we smoke them out. We still won. It was very, very close. Kind of weird how close it was, but it's not to discredit the Pacers. I mean, they still got Sabonis, who is a freak. Like that dude, I think is also an all-star, right? Or something like that.
I think he just missed out on it this year.
Okay, well,
Last year he was. I know
he
that.
was last year, and he was like a fringe one this year. So he's like one of the best forwards in this game, in my opinion. He's fantastic, and you can see what he could do when he's the number one guy. When Oladipo is gone, like you could see that he can take control. And I feel like he was a big part of why this game was close.
Yeah.
Then on the Knicks side, just again, man, Julius Randle deserving that all-star bid, just having another clinic, just like doing his thing, Noel obviously getting the rebounds. Derrick Rose, another amazing start. And RJ, what do you got to say, man? He played the Pacers. This is how he plays, man. When he plays the Pacers, it's like he's like in God mode,
Yeah, to just touch on that. I mean, he wasn't spectacular on opening night. A couple of the Knicks weren't, and they played the Pacers in Indiana that game. So I think this was the first time they actually played the Pacers at the Garden, and it was a shootout. The Pacers outscored the Knicks in just the first quarter. If I had that correct, I don't know if you saw the breakdown, but I think it was up top, at the very top if you scroll up, I'm saying, yeah. And the fourth it was tied. So rather the Knicks never trailed or never ended up down by the end of any quarter, in an individual quarter, except for the first quarter. So good to see them claw their way back. And you saw 11-point differential in the first half by the Pacers. Nine in the first half by the Pacers, 11 in the second quarter by the Knicks. Then in the third quarter, Knicks were up by 1, so that ended up 3 total if you're going to add up the quarters. And then they tied, and that makes out perfect sense in math-wise because we said 3-point difference with a tie. 110 to 107 was your final. It's great to see them play. And the Pacers, I know, are 15 and 17. They do have some names on that team, but they're still a pretty tough team to knock off. They, they similar to the Knicks. I think they have a little more star power than the Knicks. And if they were able to play the same system as the Knicks, like grit-wise, they fight, they claw their way through every single game, then I think they'd be in a better spot right now. But unfortunately for them, they haven't. So, I guess we'll see where they end up going forward. But, you can't sleep on them still. You can't say it was a walk in the park for the Knicks because it wasn't. But, again, Randle, amazing. Derrick Rose, amazing. Barrett really picked up the scoring quickly off the bench. Only 10 points, but he only played 13 minutes, so that's not crazy because we know when he plays more, he scores more. He had 4 rebounds, which is shocking me because he's not a very tall guy, but we know mentioned after the next game we go. And obviously, though, the minutes you could see, clearly there were guys who played large, both time-wise, large amounts and in the actual spotlight for what the moment was like. Nerlens Noel, who played the most minutes in a game this season. This was against Pacers, and Derrick Rose played 38 and Barrett 34. Randle continues to be among the league leaders. I think top 3 even with maybe even more than that with 42 in this one. So it's good to see, and the bench, obviously, Nitlinkina, he was pretty good. I think he had a couple steals. I think he had 3 steals and I don't know if that shows on the stats. I know it doesn't here. I don't know if there's another way you could find that, but Nitlinkina had, I think, 3 steals off the bench in a span of 3 minutes. So good for him. And obviously the rest of the guys not playing a ton. Obi Toppin obviously got a lot less time in this one than he did the previous game when he played 17 minutes. Gibson played less in this one, like 20 minutes. Kevin Knox saw about the same amount of time, but regardless of that, yeah, that wasn't so maybe it was against the Kings he had 3 steals. Okay, so either way, regardless of that, though, you see that it was a total team effort. I think that even though some of those minutes for guys were lopsided, not all these guys are starters. The starting, the 5 guys who are at the top in order, Randle, Bullock, Noel, Rose, and Barrett, were all the starting 5. You got guys off the bench like Burks, quickly, Nitlinkina, who was one of the second stringers, came in, and Toppin and Gibson obviously are the last 5, but normally you see the minutes spread out a little bit more between the players. And I think that because this was a closer game, obviously the starting 5 got a little more time, which isn't, it's not something that the Knicks aren't accustomed to. Tom Thibodeau has made it clear that he's not willing to really roll those bench guys as much anymore, like Austin Rivers and Kevin Knox. And that's been going on for a while. And look, I'd like to see them on the court. Statistically, they are playing better without them in the game as much. And at the beginning of the year, when they didn't have these guys like Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson, and before Emmanuel quickly really started to find his stride, those were the guys who would be, the second unit come in, and they would really put something special together. They did it against the Jazz in the Garden. They did it against They did it against the Pacers in another game. They did it against the Warriors in San Francisco when they played there. And they did it against the Kings prior. And now that the guys they've brought in like Gibson and Rose, and the guys have started to find their stride a little bit more, like Emmanuel quickly and Alec Burks coming back, and Taj Gibson have started to put it together. And even Toppin, who's getting better by the game. They're starting to see a little less time from the guys we saw at the beginning of the year. But, I'm sure, I won't say I'm sure, but my thought process, at least if it were myself, would be if the team is winning, I'm okay as long as whatever I could do to contribute is what it is, whether that's, you and I know from being teammates back in high school, that's, sitting on the bench it's not fun. But if it's for, the good of the team and, you reap the benefits after it, then it doesn't look so bad in the end. So hopefully they feel the same way. And, at least to see them get time is still fun. I enjoy watching all of them play.
I mean, yeah, first years I was on the bench, and I was okay because we were winning. But like when we started losing, I'm just like, I want to play. So then you let me play. So but yeah, when you're on the bench, it's not fun. Also, teams are deep usually. This team does not so deep, past Burks and Quickly, in my opinion. I mean, like I like Frank, I like Obi,
Right.
but they're not really doing anything, in the minutes they have. So why miss them? Like I think the biggest problem we thought with Tibbs hiring was that he was gonna play guys so long that they could not handle it. But everyone
He stepped
seems to
up.
be taking it pretty well, or at least maybe because most of the guys that are doing it are kind of like older and more experienced. You know,
Yeah,
like
and keep in mind now they're playing without Peyton and they're playing without Mitchell Robinson right now. Those are normally two of the starting five out there.
yeah, I mean, like a big problem when we were losing before, I thought was that we didn't have enough people. But I feel like now we have enough people, and we don't even really need those other people because a lot of the guys are playing like 30 minutes plus per game. So you only need people for the in between moments of that game to come off the bench, and then I think you're golden at that point.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
yeah.
not really
So,
much more to say.
and then obviously what happened yesterday, which was
Yeah,
amazing, was like a 20, almost 20 points against. I know they're like the worst team in the league,
I think in the Eastern Conference right now,
or
I
in the
believe
Eastern
Minnesota
Conference, like the
still is.
worst. But like, if you think about it, we just took like one of their best players, Derrick Rose, and we gave him one of our more interesting players in Dennis Smith Jr. So I don't know, not a shock. Who do they have besides Blake Griffin?
And
Like,
Grant.
right, and Jeremy Grant, right?
Yeah, not much really. And Griffin didn't even play last night,
Right.
so
So it really was just Jeremy Grant. So so what are you gonna do? Like, but still props to the Knicks. I mean, like Julius Randle again, just proving how much
yeah,
he needs to be an all-star, man. These stats are fantastic.
yeah.
You
And
know?
once again from Barrett and Rose stepping up again.
Also, like Noel getting 11 rebounds in this game, playing 40 minutes. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Uh,
he
you
was
know,
a bucket shy of a double double. Um,
yeah. So he's yeah. I mean, like I feel like ever since we switched from Rose from Payton to Rose, I feel like this is gonna like change our fate forever. Like maybe we have our guy and we don't have to worry about our point guard problem anymore. Because everyone thought Albert Payton, he's good defensively, but he rarely has those big offensive scoring nights. And we just thought, we need a scoring point guard. It's nice to have defense, but you need a scoring point guard. And like we all know what Derrick Rose used to be like, and we all know he's not exactly the same as then. But he's playing pretty well for someone at his age with his injury history. So I gotta give props to Derrick Rose. I'm happy he's back in New York, and I'm happy he's helping us get the W.
Yeah, the minutes were spread around a lot more is something I tend to notice this game. Nittlen Keen. I mean, the lowest they played was 13, and they didn't take many guys off their bench. There were only 4 guys off the bench, and Burks, Toppin, Quickly, and Frank Nittlen. Taj Gibson was out this game. No Kevin Knox in this one. So nice to see that. I mean, like only one guy didn't score, and that was Frank Ntilikina. But we know, I mean, like he's more of a defensive-oriented player. Quickly, 12 points, good to see. Toppin was pretty good around, around the rim defensively because they had him come up and play the 4 or the 5 a couple times because of the fact that they wanted Noel to sit a little bit. And once again, I mean, Nerlens Noel played 40 minutes in this game. He played the most minutes out of anyone on this team. Normally, you see Julius Randle go 40 minutes or more, but I mean, he didn't even hit 40 last night. So good to see that. They really spread it around a little bit more. And even the sixth man, Alec Burks, you could see was also over 25 minutes. Toppin Quickly, Nittlen Keenan really didn't need to play. Normally, you would see them play a little bit more, but they didn't really need to because late in the fourth, when you're up 19 points, they were up more than 19. I think their largest lead was like 21 or 22. And then, obviously like one bucket here and there. And then when you could score, but you choose to just dribble out the clock on the last possession where the shot clock is under the game clock, time wise, it just doesn't make sense. Why risk getting injured, or why, like if you're going to do it to run up the score, then, you risk something happening after, with the players and everything. It just doesn't make sense. So, that kind of obviously sets the bar a little bit lower for, the average amount of time these guys are going to play a game. And, honestly, if they don't need to, then that's great. Because as you mentioned, the Knicks don't have excellent depth. It's definitely better than it's been in a while, since bringing in Rose. But now Peyton's out. So even if he wasn't, even if he would be the starting point guard, he's out. And even if he wasn't going to be the starting point guard, I know Quickly has been excellent, but they like to keep two of those guys in there. So you essentially have 2 point guards, unless Quickly becomes a shooting guard at that point. Unless, I don't know, with Burks. Either way, the bottom line being that, when the depth isn't still that great, then, it's kind of nice to see them playing a little less, because it means they, you don't have to overwork them. And then if you need them another day, because this was a back-to-back, they're going to be playing again tomorrow night, I believe. And that's going to be another game where they're going to want their starters to go long, as we know, you mentioned with Thibodeau, playing the starting five, obviously a lot more than the bench. So it's good to see that if they can't handle it, and I don't think they won't be able to handle it. I think they'll step up as they have done all season. That the 4 guys they had, in this case, Burks, Toppin, Quickly, and Ntilikina, even though Burks played a significant amount more than the next guy, which was Toppin. He played 7 minutes more than him still. I think that they'll be well rested and be able to pick them up if the Knicks are down, and if they're not, then to just keep the pace the same if it's working in our favor. So I wanted to point out something, though, I mentioned about Emmanuel Quickly, and that's his free throw shooting, because we see the points, and with Quickly you assume it's going to be a lot of threes because he's a great 3-point shooter. We've seen he's been effective. He can come in and change the momentum of a game with a shot here and there, and he can penetrate. And obviously his floaters aren't falling as much as they were when he first started playing that way, but it's still nice to see him getting those opportunities, because it's just, that's something that that Rose doesn't try to do as often as he used to, and that's something Peyton tries not to do. They both don't try to penetrate. Rose is a little more of an outside passer type player and more of that mid-range scorer than he is inside scoring. So it's nice to see Quickly try to go to, they say it's nice to go to the dirty areas, force up shots. That's how you draw fouls, and that's how you create havoc by the hoop and rebounding opportunities and second chance points. But other than that, his free throw shooting, I believe he's now 94% on the season. I think he's 94 for 100 on the regular season. So there's that. That was on him. In terms of the Knicks overall, something we didn't touch on is their defense. And I know we've mentioned individuals like Noel, like Bullock, like Randle, but the team overall right now, statistically, this was coming into last night's game, is 3rd best in the NBA defensively. So even though they're not a top scoring team, because they're one of the lower scoring teams in the NBA on average per game, it just it shows that they don't need, to score. I mentioned they're a very gritty team and they fight, they claw their way through everything. But that's offensively. On defense, they're so composed. And this is without Mitchell Robinson. And as you mentioned, Elfrid Payton, who's an excellent defensive point guard. And Robinson, we know, is a big presence defensively as well. But Noel is also, and Noel has stepped up. And I think he's a big part of their success. And guys like Ntilikina who's back in the lineup after missing a lot of time and, starting to see more time as each game goes by. With his stealing, with his ability, he's got quick hands, his ability to pick pockets quickly as well, is very good at drawing the foul because he's such a small guy. When a guy charges, he's very good at drawing the charge. Toppin's a big body who's very athletic. Alec Burks is very stingy as well. And then you've got the starting 5. We already know Bullock, Noel, Randle, Barrett, and Rose. We've seen it all year. So I don't know if you have anything to say, but it's one of the things we haven't talked about really at all as a team. It's more been specific players. So, I mean, what do you think about this? Because everyone is saying, they can't score points, but I mean, there are games where they'll come out and score plenty of points, as we saw against, I mean, they won by 19 here, and 109 is not awful. But I mean, they put up 140 the other night, and they put up 110 the game after. So, I mean, what are you thinking about this?
I think offenses need to win games, but defense wins championships. That's what people got to remember, you know? That's why I don't think, a team like the Heat, who, had so many offensive just studs, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, right? They were great, but they didn't have the defense. That's why to me the Lakers won, because LeBron can play defense. Anthony Davis, who's always in contention for Defensive Player of the Year, he can play defense. You know, they got guys who can do that. So, like, that's the other thing. That's why I think the Nets are gonna lose. If they make it to the NBA Finals, I don't think they'll win because as much as they can score, they can't block for shit. They can't. You know, KD kind of can when he's healthy, but he's not being healthy so much now. And we all know about Harden and Kyrie. Yeah, they can score, but they can't. They can't block for shit. They can't. They can't do it. You know. But you know who can block for shit? Julius Randle can when he really wants to. Reggie Bullock can. We know Nerlens Noel can. And even though that's not their priority, Barrett and Rose have shown they can be defensively inclined as well. So
Yeah, and
why?
this is without Robinson too, and Peyton.
Yeah, but they're not even playing. But when they do, it's that those are people that are defense first also. So like, how could you not be excited for this team? Because you know that even if they can't score a ton, they're gonna still be in the game, which is what happened a lot this season. They're still gonna be in the game because of their defense. They're going to prevent the other team from scoring more so that the lead will be very, very slim for the other team. So I gotta say, I like our chances, man. Like like I've always enjoyed a scoring team, but I've always wanted a defense team because the reason why the Knicks were so successful in the 90s was because of their defense. They were like the best defensive team of that decade by far. The Bulls could score, but they were not a better defensive team than the Knicks. That's why the Knicks always made it close with the Bulls. It was never a sweep. It was always a 6-7 game series against the Bulls. Always close, Knicks might have not always won, but they never went down without a fight. I can tell you that much. Just watching tape.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that this year. I'm not saying comparison to the team, but a lot of the play style that Joey has just mentioned over the last couple of minutes. So, yeah, anyway, looking forward, obviously, to this team going forward. And my perspective, as I mentioned, has definitely changed. I'm not expecting them to compete, but I'm expecting them to still have a level of competitiveness to them that will, ignite their potential going forward.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, what else could you say? Like, you gotta be happy this year. This is not like normal years. Like that only like we were never the worst team, but we weren't ever. We were always like mediocre. Now we're like a playoff team. We have an all-star on our team, an all-star. Okay, think about that. Last time we had an all-star was Porzingis, and he was injured, so he didn't even play. And before that, obviously Carmelo, just for
You got
years.
to go back 7 years to that, though.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know
like,
if 7 years, maybe in
no, he
20.
was still an all-star afterward. We weren't.
Yeah, but when the team was actually like a guaranteed lock of a playoff team type thing, yeah, I understand that then.
I mean, that's when they were like the second best team in the East. Obviously you had the Heat, and then you had the Knicks. So like, it was just tough. It was just tough.
Yeah. And look, this is the best start the Knicks have had season wise. I know they're above 500 in their play style since the 2012-2013 season when they had that incredible year from Carmelo Anthony, and you had guys on that team like Amari Stoudemire still and J.R. Smith when he was a lot younger, and
Tyson
yeah, like
Chandler and
Tyson Chandler, obviously Jason Kidd, I'm sure was
yeah,
on
Jason Kidd
either
was on
that
that
team
team.
or the team before it, and the bottom line is like they had their weapons and they played well and they weren't ever a guaranteed win. For other teams or a loss in their case, however you want to put it. Bottom line is they fought hard, and while they never brought back home a title, they fought it. They were right up there among the top teams in the NBA at the time.
For sure. We hope we can get to that spot again. I mean, like, I like our chances. We already have beaten the Bucks, so I feel like we could definitely slide into that 3 spot. And the only teams above us are the teams we have not beaten yet. But I still believe that we're going to beat the Nets and Sixers at least once this season. I still believe that.
There's reason to believe it.
So when that happens, then I don't know, we can go all the way to 2 maybe if I really I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm predicting we're gonna be in the top 4. We could stay there, even though all the other teams are like 1 game behind. So it obviously we could go all the way to like 6 or 7 if it doesn't work out. But I think we'll stay. I hope we'll stay.
Yeah, well, look, this is the last thing I have to say on the basketball segment, and that's that the Knicks get the Pistons next game. As far as it's either next game or in 2 games. So what was good about the way they mentioned this on the post game with Wally Zerbiak and Bill Pito after was the fact that and Alan Hahn also, pardon me, who joined from his home studio, and they said what they like about the fact that Tom Thibodeau did in this game. We mentioned the bench didn't play so much, and they didn't really need to, because the starting lineup had just been that good all game. But that's also when you would normally see the bench, and he said, obviously they didn't need to play. It wasn't like these guys were dying and they needed them in the game, and they were down like 1 and they had to push. No, like they were kind of just having fun with it. But at the same time, what it also does is it makes a statement to the Pistons saying, hey, look, like we're not going to let you figure anything out from, our weaker players, the guys who aren't obviously in the starting 5, and let you think, oh, we have an idea. We're going to play a system against specifically those guys. That'll create an imbalance for the whole team because that'll shift momentum our way and we can build off of that. And who knows what happens. They completely shut the Pistons down. That's why the starters were in there at the end of the game. Wally Zerbiak specifically said, no, I don't know. Like, if it were me, I probably would have played my bench players more. They didn't need to score. They weren't down by any more, they weren't down and they weren't, they had a lead by at least like 15 through almost the entire 4th quarter. So was it a little unnecessary to leave the starters out there? In his opinion, yes. But it makes the statement to say, look, you've got us in another day or 2, and we're going to, we're coming for you. We're coming for you hard, and we don't plan on doing things any differently the last time because you couldn't figure us out. And if you can't, then, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's what I like to see about this. So hopefully that'll work in the Knicks' favor, and we'll see how it is with them going forward.
Yeah, what else could you say? Just it's an exciting team. Very exciting team. So, yeah, we've talked a lot about basketball, so we've elected to keep our next 2 topics rather short, but we still want to talk about them nonetheless. So let's get to them. Our next topic of the day is baseball. And, well, let's get to it. Technically, Josh, baseball's back. Season's on, technically. Spring, not the real season, but spring training nevertheless, so still a real season. And just give me your thoughts. And I have some things I want to pull up, but yeah, give me your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, with spring training right now beginning, the regular season is not too far away. It's right around the corner. I think opening day is either very late March or or April 1st. So it's one of those 2, I think, in general. I'm not talking about the Mets or Yankees specifically. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly, but I will tell you that I'm excited. I think everyone is, especially though if you're a Mets or Yankees fan. We know the Yankees with the move they've made, and the Mets under new management and ownership and the moves they made now for the actual team player-wise, that there is reason to be excited for both of them and anywhere else around baseball because a lot of teams are looking different. We know the White Sox got a lot better. The Padres took that next step last year, and they built on it this year. We know the Dodgers obviously built on it, just touch across the team. And there are going to be a lot of teams to look out for. And while some of those teams have gotten a lot better, some of the teams that, around them have also gotten worse because Cleveland Indians trading away Francisco Lindor. Obviously, they haven't been with Kluber for a while, but now to see him go also, not to see him only go out of division. It's not like they really had a chance with him because he was taking less money, but to see now that their division gets harder when the White Sox bring in Lance Lynn and Liam Hendricks and Adam Eaton comes back to them after really improving his game with the Washington Nationals. And the Minnesota Twins haven't done too much, but Have they really gotten worse is my question. Sure, they will probably be without Jake Odorizzi this year. I don't even know if that's a lock. Odorizzi hasn't signed anywhere yet, and he was their best pitcher, or one of their best pitchers. But the offense is still there in Garver, Nelson Cruz, Byron Buxton. You've got Andrelton Simmons now, who's a very good defensive shortstop, and Jorge Polanco, we know who can really get it done offensively, and he's getting better defensively, but I think that's why they moved him over. And on your bench, you've got Luis Arias, who's one of the batting title kings in the MLB, who's super consistent. He's going to do nothing but hit you singles and doubles and get on base constantly. And of course, Josh Donaldson and who's the last guy? Oh, no more Eddie Rosario, but I don't think that's really going to make or break their offense as good as he can be. Because, I mean, of all the other names I just mentioned on that list. So a lot of interesting teams to watch out for, a lot of interesting changes to look out for. Yeah, I mean, that's all I really have. I'm just excited to get baseball back again.
Yeah, so I just thought this was a cool article I saw. So 4 of the top 100 prospects, apparently they homered yesterday. So I just wanted you to see that. So no, one of them was three of them. No, wait, hold on. I actually have to read this. I haven't read this whole thing. Hold on a second. Jazz Chisholm, so number 66. He had one. Okay. Okay, I'm not whatever. The point is that prospects are already showing interesting progress in their first games. Jeter Downs, who I think, if I'm not mistaken, was a prospect traded in the Mookie Betts trade, I'm pretty sure. Bobby Dahlbeck, Connor Wong, Yusniel Diaz. So most of these people are in like the AL East, stuff like that, and the NL East. So what do you think? Is this a statement? Like, should we look into this more, or is it just overrated because it's spring training, so nobody's really trying?
I don't want to say it's overrated, but I think it's spring training. What mean is most of these guys are not exactly, due to come up this year. You'll see them in the minors still for another year, maybe a year and a half or two, maybe get called up midway next season, not this coming season, but the one after. So I don't know if it's something to really be taken seriously. Obviously, nothing to be taken lightly. You've got guys who are trying to compete for a spot in your, in your farm system, who are improving and showing they want to be there and who are working hard to get there. But I don't think it's much to really pay a lot of attention to right now, if that makes any sense. I don't know if you have anything else, Joey, but I did think of something real quick. And that was also right before I was checking out, obviously we know MLB.com and MLB Network. The analytics panel, the sabermetrics panel have done their rankings, but someone else came out with a ranking for the top 10 players right now in baseball. And I want your opinion on just one thing plain and simple. Is Mike Trout the best player in baseball?
Oh, I saw this one. Is this the one that put what's his name instead of Mike Trout? He put Mike Trout at 3. Is this what you're talking about?
Yes.
Who did he put at 1? Who did he put at 1?
Mookie Betts.
Yeah,
Mookie Betts.
This guy's an idiot.
But okay, hold on. Like, just stop there. That's it. That's all we need. Because it's not even, as you mentioned, that Trout is not number 1. He's not even number 2.
Who's number 2?
And Juan Soto. And Juan Soto is not even better than Mookie Betts. So to say that Trout is not only not better than Betts, but not better than Juan Soto is absolutely ridiculous. There is no excuse except some kind of mental case, unless he just doesn't follow baseball.
Maybe he's probably like a Dodger fan or something. I don't know.
I really don't understand. It's ridiculous to say, at the very least. It's ridiculous to say. And
no, it's
his excuse for putting Betts ahead of Trout was WAR. Well, guess what? If you're going to go by WAR, Brett Gardner has a higher WAR than Bryce Harper over the last few years. So I guess Brett Gardner must be a better player than Bryce Harper, which, by the way, he is not even close.
I love Gardner. He's not better than Bryce Harper.
I just can't get behind the fact that not only did he put Betts ahead of Trout, and no disrespect to Betts, he's the clear number 2 player in baseball behind Mike Trout. If it weren't for Mike Trout, Betts would be the clear number 1 best player in baseball. But not only that, he did it, but his reasoning was just the stupidest thing possible. Because if that's strictly what he said, I got one reason: war. I believe it was Joel Sherman, who was the man who did it. He said one thing: war, just war. That's all he said. And then what happens? Well, I mean, like, you start to look at the numbers and you see that certain players have higher WAR than others, and it's a significant margin. And significantly worse players have a higher WAR than significantly better players than them. So I guess they should be ranked ahead. You know what I mean by that logic?
I mean, like, it's just stupid, like when I look at like pitchers and position players, I don't just look at ERA and I don't just look at WAR or home runs. That's like stupid. You have to look at everything. You have to look at WHIP. You have to look at I forget what the other ones are called. You have to look at OPS. You have to look at OBP. You have to look at your BAA. You have to look at your WRCT plus. You have to look at your defensive run save. You have to look at all the stats. Okay, you can't just use one stat. I hate people that
everything. Also,
you can't just use one stat to say why someone's better. That's like a stupid thing to do. You have to use all the stats possible. Okay, otherwise you're just an idiot. It's just like annoying. So, Joel Sherman, you're probably still gonna have your job after this. But if I was your boss, I'd probably fire your ass. I wouldn't fire your ass, but I'd probably say take a nice vacation, think about what you did, go to the penalty box for like 2 years, and then come back when you're actually know what you're doing. So yeah, he needs a reality check. Like, someone's got to tell him off. I don't know who, but like, yeah, maybe your boy Matt Versagian. I don't know, but like, yeah, weird, really weird. Must have been smoking some ganja before he made this list or something. I don't know.
As plenty of YouTubers and plenty of people would probably say, like, if that's actually the case, I want to know what this dude is smoking, because like clearly it gets the job done. And just for the record, no, I don't smoke and I don't plan to smoke. But, point well taken that it's like, how could you put Mike Trout not only not number 2, if not number 1, which, by the way, it's a lock. There's not a question. If he's not number 1, then you are smoking something. And not only to not be put number 2, but number 3? Like, really? Like, it's just, I can't get behind it. I just can't. Like, one spot is shockingly enough, but not to be number 2 is just even crazier. Yeah, like, whatever.
Yeah, but
we
like,
don't talk about it anymore. That's just flat out it.
I don't know, man. He's lucky he's still employed. That's all I can say. Like,
I wouldn't go that far, not yet at least, but
maybe fine. He's lucky that no one important is calling him out. Nobody like, I don't know, like the commissioner. I don't know. The commissioner probably doesn't have a say in that type of stuff.
Look, in his defense, he said it by one stat. They went by certain statistics, not by overall play, because I'm sure he's aware in overall play, Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. But they're doing it as players right now. And there's no way that you can just back it up behind one stat. There are numerous statistics that come into this. And he said, I only have one reason why I put Mookie Betts in first, and that's WAR. Sure, he might have a better WAR than Mike Trout over the last 2 years. But as I've mentioned, Harper has a worse WAR than Brett Gardner over the last couple of years. I want you to know there was another one. Trevor Story, I think, has a higher WAR right now. I think Trevor Story has one of the lowest WARs of like the top 10 shortstops behind not Corey Seager, behind Francisco Lindor and Marcus Semien and Andrelton Simmons even. Those guys are all ahead of Trevor Story. Trevor Story right now is the second best shortstop in baseball. To say something like that is just utterly ridiculous. I have nothing, like, you can't base all of your rankings on WAR.
I mean, yeah, it's stupid. Simmons is probably ranked higher because of his defense, with WAR. It's probably invaluable to.
Right. Now, is he a better player than Trevor Story? Absolutely.
No, I'm just saying, I'm trying to explain maybe why he has a higher WAR than Trevor Story.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying by that logic, he would be a better player than Trevor Story.
I didn't say that. He's a better defender than Trevor Story. He's probably the best defensive shortstop in the league. Like, if we're being honest,
Look, he probably is, but I honestly think eventually Story's insanely athletic. He could take that crown from him.
I don't
Lindor
know,
could probably
man.
take that
I don't
crown.
know. Like, Coors Field has always been known as a hitter's ballpark. Everyone
And the
talks.
fact that Story has to play there and he makes the plays there, I think, is even more of a compliment to his defense. If anything, that would only help him in the argument.
Yeah.
But that's all. That's like, I have nothing more to say. It's just ridiculous that Trout's not number one and not even number two as
Listen,
well.
what's the point? The point is, like, do not base your arguments on one stat. It's like really stupid, just really dumb. Okay, yeah, I'm tired of talking about this. Let's move on. So we got football, and I only got one thing to talk about. So, Josh, I don't know if you recall, but I talked about a certain player who was released by a team. Do you remember who that was?
You talking about last week or
I think 2 weeks ago.
I don't recall.
Okay, well, this guy he was like the face of this franchise for the last 10 years. Amazing player. He got released. He's a lineman. Ringing any bells?
No, I mean, I haven't followed a lot of football recently, and I don't.
Well, we talked about it
specifically. I know we probably talked about it. It's just not coming to mind right now. When you say it, I'll be like, oh yeah.
And we said this player was either going to sign with the Steelers or the Packers, or I said that.
Oh yeah, J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt. So
I thought you were talking about an offense
today.
I thought you were talking about an offensive lineman.
No, I said defense. Oh, I didn't say defense. Whatever.
You just said lineman. Yeah.
My bad. So anyway, J.J. Watt has just breaking news. Has just signed a 2-year deal with the Cardinals. Reaction, Josh?
Good for him. The Cardinals were getting somewhere last year, and then the second half of the season came upon them. But we know what that offense can do. You've got Kyler Murray, obviously. You've got Hopkins. You've got Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds as a very good running back tandem. And then you've got you've got Dan Arnold, and you've got Max, what's his name, the other tight end.
I thought it was Christian Kirk.
No, like he's one of the wide receivers. You've also got Fitzgerald still, but man, this is really going to bother me. Either way, the bottom line is we know that offense is very potent and it's stacked, and they get the job done a lot. And Zane Gonzalez is still a pretty good kicker. He's got a strong leg. He's got very good range. He's pretty accurate in terms of all that. But the defense needs work. And obviously you've got Budda Baker and you've got Patrick Peterson.
Hassan Reddick.
And Hassan Reddick, but there's really not much else than that. I mean, they also have Whitaker, but I mean, we don't talk about stuff like that in certain moments. Not to be mentioned against Seattle. Either way, with the bottom line being, they could have used a guy. They could use a guy like J.J. Watt. And I think J.J. Watt's going to improve that defense. Even the guys in the secondary, because he knows what it's like to play with the top guys. He played with Jonathan Joseph and Danielle Manning back with Houston. Those two guys were elite at running the cornerback, and safety positioning, and also play with Gibson in Houston, and they play with guys who can man the middle of the field like Brian Cushing. Obviously he hasn't been around for a while, but it's crazy. Like, the amount of knowledge this guy has, and he's a defensive lineman, but the guys he's played with, he knows what it takes to be a good defensive unit, and he knows what it takes to win. Unfortunately for him, he's never won a title, but who knows? This could be a year. I know that, the Bucks and the Packers and maybe and the Seahawks and the Vikings, I think we'll have a bounce back year. I think the Vikings are going to have a bounce back year, and the Saints, actually not necessarily, because Drew Brees is probably not going to be playing going forward. So with that being said, I mean, the door is starting to open up a little bit more for the Cardinals. They were one of the worst teams in the NFL the last couple seasons, but they're starting to put it back together, and it's up and coming fast.
Yeah, I mean, do you think this was the right choice? Because we like Arizona, but they're not really a contender, if we're being honest here. I mean, we did.
Yeah. I mean, look,
was their defense.
They weren't so far away.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. This is giving me bad vibes. I mean, I don't know if we were going to talk about it in the hockey section, but this reminds me of when Taylor Hall said he wanted to sign with a team that would help him win a championship, and he signed with the Sabres. You know,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
and they're trash now.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Like, we knew that was going to happen. We were like,
Right.
why Taylor? Why would you go here? Like, I'm afraid this is what's going to happen in J.J. Watt. Like, he's going to be mediocrity. Because look what happens when Kyler Murray would be out. If he's out, I think the team is dead. Doesn't matter who's
Yeah.
involved.
Well, look, bringing in J.J. Watt definitely helps that defense, though, and the defense couldn't really hold it without Murray, as we know against against the Rams in that final game of the year. So, um,
I mean, maybe I guess he did it. This might have been a reason why he did it. It says here he'll reunite with Vance Joseph, the Cardinals defensive coordinator, who used to be the DB coach when Watt was in Houston. So I guess they were close. That might have been a reason. I guess he recruited him to come here. But also it might be because Arizona, they got great weather there, I guess. He didn't want to go to Green Bay where it's always cold,
yeah.
Pittsburgh. I guess he just really wanted to stay in the warm climate. Just a thought.
Look, I mean,
Or maybe
Houston's not cold either, though. Like, I mean, they're not going to win really anymore. I mean, I don't. At least I would
no, but
assume.
Houston released him.
Right.
So that's not an option. Um Yeah, so that's. I mean, maybe he also was intrigued by the players. Chandler Jones, Hassan Reddick, as you said, Patterson and Buda Baker
Baker.
and Hopkins and Murray. So I don't know. I guess he's intrigued by the team. Maybe this is a game. Do you think this is a game changing move for the team? Like, do you think this can change the fate now that he's in there on their team?
I think it's too early to tell, but I think that definitely improves them. As one of our favorite YouTubers, Giraffe Mark says, I know it's a different sport, but it's the same concept. If your team is not getting better, they're getting worse. And the Cardinals just went out, and I know J.J. Watt is not the J.J. Watt we saw 8-9 years ago when he was first entering the league and still shredding it. But he's definitely still a huge threat defensively for any team to have to contain and to handle. And the Cardinals definitely got better with this move.
I mean, so where does this put them in the division, right? You got Seattle, LA, and who's the other team?
The Niners.
And the Niners, right? So where do you think this puts them in the division?
I've got no idea. Just for recent knowledge purposes, I would have to say Seattle's probably the number one team in that division right now. Especially, I know Matthew Stafford's great, but it's going to be his first year with that offense. They don't exactly know what they're getting, but they do know what they're getting because it's Matt Stafford. He's played with some of the best in the game. He's played with Calvin Johnson. He's played with Brandon Pettigrew. He's played with Reggie Bush, who's a great receiving running back at the time as well. And now he gets to come in with a rookie guy, not a rookie, but a second-year guy who missed a lot of time in his rookie season like Cam Akers. And he's going to get guys like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee and Josh Reynolds and Gerald Everett. And, yeah, like they're a great team on paper. But, the question is going to be in the action because Stafford didn't have so much this past year really except for TJ Hawkinson because Kenny Golladay was out almost the entire year. And Marvin Jones was super inconsistent. And they didn't have much other than that. DeAndre Swift, yeah, he's a running back, though. Adrian Peterson's also a running back. So I guess we'll see going forward. I don't know exactly where to put the Rams, but, I can't go against that defense. They were the best defense in the league last year, so I'd have to put them at number 2. But I'd be willing to put the Cardinals ahead of the 49ers in that division. And for all we know, it could end up being one of those divisions like the NFC East this past year, or sorry, not the NFC East, excuse me, the AFC East or the AFC North, where you had the Browns, Steelers, and the Ravens, who are all at least 10-win teams, 11-win teams on the season. Maybe that could be the NFC West next year with the Cardinals, Seahawks, and Rams. So I guess we'll see going forward. I don't know where to put them record-wise. I would probably put them at about the 9-7 mark right about now. I mean, what were they, like 8-7-1 last year or something like that, or 8-8 this past year? So, maybe it gives them another game or two. but we'll see. I really can't tell. I do think it makes them better for sure, though.
I mean, I feel like with all the Russell Wilson things, rumors that he wants out, like if they actually trade Russell Wilson away, I think the division is wide open.
Yeah,
I think so.
it very well could be. It also depends who they trade him for, though.
Well, I mean, I see a thing here. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it says there's a 4-team list, and it says Dallas, Saints, Raiders, and Bears. So if they did the Bears, who would they trade? Probably Mitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mitch sucks. So that would mean that they're not going to be number one. If they trade for the Saints, Drew Brees is probably retired. And I love Taysom Hill, but we really don't know what he's like yet. So who are they going to trade? Jameis Winston? That dude sucks too. So the only real options is either Dallas or Las Vegas, right? Because you could either trade for Derek Carr or you could trade for Dak. And I feel like Dak makes sense because he wants the money and they probably won't give it to him. But does that mean Seattle's going to give it to him after they just not overpaid, they paid a lot of money for Wilson's contract? So I feel like they just go for Carr, and Carr would be probably the safest bet, even though he has injury history. So I don't know. Like the only way they really are the number one team in the division is if they trade for Derek Carr, because we all know what Derek Carr can do when healthy. Raiders were not so bad this year. I mean, they beat the Chiefs, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
They were like one of only 2 teams to beat them this year. So, it's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've said our piece on football.
Yeah. Like baseball, there's not a lot going on. The off season is has been a lot shorter so far, with the Super Bowl happening just about 3 weeks ago. So there hasn't been much recently. Yeah, let's move on to hockey, I guess.
Yeah. So how do you want to go about this, Josh?
Yeah, so I'll open it up. We are going to talk a little bit of Rangers because I feel like we have to with the way they're playing recently. And
but let's talk about the other teams first.
Yeah, let's go to the other teams first. So Joey, we're gonna do this thing where we touch on a couple teams that are obviously, we've been talking about the ones that are really surprising us, but I want to talk about specific play from players and the actions. So yesterday, the Chicago Blackhawks played against the Detroit Red Wings, and we know the Detroit Red Wings are not a powerhouse team. And we know that even though they beat the Blackhawks 5-3, they got their butts kicked yesterday. The final score was 7-2. And I'm sure as well as I do, that a certain player hit a very special milestone yesterday. And that is Patrick Kane scoring his 400th NHL goal. What are your thoughts?
I mean, what do you got to say, man? It's hard to root against Patrick Kane. He had all these issues in the past, but dude's one hell of a player, man. That's why I'm glad we have somebody like Panarin, because everybody describes Panarin as a Patrick Kane type player, And that's a big thing to call someone, because Patrick Kane, I don't know if I really fully agree with this, but 2 years ago was the 100th anniversary of the NHL, and they named Patrick Kane one of the 100 best players of all time. So I'm not entirely sure about that. I feel like it might be recency bias, but I will say this. He has had one hell of a career. 3 Stanley Cups. I think he won the Hart one year. I think he got the Rocket Richard.
First overall pick, don't forget.
First overall pick.
A lot of hype surrounding him.
I mean, but let's be honest, man. It's not really Chicago. He'd have this kind of career anyway. Chicago got super, super lucky they weren't even really supposed to get him, But they got super lucky. I don't know if you watched Steve Dangle's, trade trees, but he did a whole thing about not trade trees. It was like a trade tree. It was a major.
Yeah, I didn't see this one. I have seen a couple.
No, it wasn't a trade tree. It was a Steve Dang It, but it was an old one during the the between of the pandemic. He was doing old Dang It's. So he did the one where you remember Patrick Stefan missed the empty net, and then the Oilers take it the other way. So the thing is, they lost that game, but since it was in overtime, they had one more point than the Blackhawks. So because of that, the Oilers lost out on Patrick Kane, because with their percentages, they would have had a higher chance of getting somebody like Patrick Kane if they didn't have that extra point in overtime. So
Look, I
it's
know you're talking about like Chicago was lucky to get him, but can we just be thankful at least the Oilers didn't get him because of the luck they've had in the draft lottery the
no, but
last decade?
you can't think like that at the time because that's 2007. So they didn't even have it.
I
He
know,
didn't
but like
have
looking
any of
back
that
at
luck
it,
then. And first of all, you want to know why your point sucks? Because guess what? If they had
three of
somebody,
them were busts. Yes, I know.
no, because if they had Patrick Kane, you think they'd get number one all those other years? I don't think so. I think maybe
Eh,
they would have gone to McDavid probably, but I don't think they would have gotten everybody else. I don't think they would have got Hall or Nuge or Yakupov or Dry. I don't think they would have gotten any of those
well,
guys.
Draisaitl, I think, was a number 3 overall. I
But
think it was
still, I
either
just
he
don't think.
wasn't 1. He was top 3, but
Okay, fine. The point is, I just don't think they would get any of those guys because they'd have Patrick Kane, who's like amazing. People
yeah.
say he's the best American player of all time. I don't know about that. I kind of like I feel like Mike Modano deserves that respect, but the point is like he's just a great player. He's a great player. He's one of the best players in this league by far. Like it's not his fault. His team kind of has been on the decline. I think he's making the most of it work with the youth movement, with the Brinket and those boys. I mean, like we know they're doing pretty well. Although, come on, like, are we really gonna be impressed that they smoked the Red Wings? That's not really an
No,
accomplishment.
we're not, but it is a milestone to talk about. I
It's a
also just want to
milestone.
point out
I mean, but like Ryan Strome hit his 100th like last week against I think the Caps. So like how many
yeah, I
people?
know that's true, but this is, as you mentioned, one of the greatest players of all time as of now, or who will go down as one of the greatest players supposedly of all time.
I mean, yeah, he's a great player. You can't deny it, man. You can't deny his prowess. I mean, like what he just did, like, well, I guess since he's reached what number did you say this was?
400 goals. And
So
he's
I
already
want to
over a
try
thousand
something.
points. We know that.
I
So
want to try something. I want you to name me your favorite Patrick Kane goal that you can remember.
my favorite Patrick Kane goal. My favorite Patrick Kane goal. I remember this because I saw it. I didn't see it live because I was a
I
lot
think I know
younger
what you're
back.
gonna say. I think I
I
know what
was a
you're
lot younger. I was a lot younger when this happened. This was like 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And I didn't have the patience to stay up that entire night. It was a playoff game against the St. Louis Blues. It was game 5 of the
okay.
first round. And it was in St. Louis. And I remember the Blackhawks had a 2-goal lead in the third. They were up 3-1. And in the third, the Blues came back. Both Robbie Fabry and David Backes scored goals to tie the game. And it went to double overtime. And Patrick Kane had this play in the slot where he dangled through like 3 guys, tried to get a shot on goal, but the puck slid off his stick. It went to the other side, and Elliott had no idea where it was. Patrick Kane was once again similar to the game-winning goal he scored in the Cup final a couple of years ago. He was like the only guy who knew it was in and knew where the puck was. Similar to here, but it was a lot easier to see the puck for everyone. No one saw it until they saw Kane race around the goal and backhand wrap around right into the net. Too late, and the St. Louis announcer was calling. I know they have a not their play-by-play, but their color commentator. You heard him scream on the mic, "Oh!" Like he saw Kane was going to pull it off, and they won that game in overtime. And they forced Game 6. They won Game 6, but they lost Game 7. But like that was my favorite. Like he toe dragged through like 3 or 4 different players. I don't know if you even want to pull it up. Maybe you could probably find it. Um, but yeah, I
Um,
mean, look up Patrick Kane overtime winner Game 5, St. Louis Blues. You'll probably find it somewhere. Um, whatever. It's not that crazy if you don't. But that is my favorite goal. And well, down the long road, it didn't seem to be of insane importance since they lost later that round. Yeah, this is it. This is it. Yeah, so just wait. You'll see he's gonna. No, that wasn't it. I mean, like you'll see it. It's gonna come right about now. He's gonna start on the right side. Watch, someone's gonna find him. Panik's gonna find him right here. Now take a
oh,
look. No one knows where it is until Kane sees it. Yeah, that was it. And yeah, obviously down the road, as I mentioned, so it didn't have great importance because the Blackhawks won. I mean, because the Blackhawks were eliminated 2 games later. But I mean, at the time, it was huge. That's my favorite goal he's ever scored. And I've seen plenty of them. So it was not an easy decision. But yeah, like it's really impressive to see. I don't know. What's yours, Joey, then?
So I want to give 2 honorable mentions because, one of them was this year in the bubble. He did an amazing spinorama, as you can see, against Reimer, which
Yes.
was freaking amazing. Like, look at this, man. Look at this magic. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I can just
He had one like that against Dallas too. Like
the amount of
way.
the amount of power in just the backhand is insane. Like we all
Yeah.
talk about Crosby, how great he is on the backhand, but I feel like Kane was just the master of the backhand. You know, right? Right. And then um, there's obviously the famous, the
The
famous,
one where he knew it was in, but no one knew that it was in beside for him.
right? Exactly. The one
Philly.
in 2010, right? The first time the Blackhawks were in the Stanley Cup, right? It was Game 6, and he
Right
scores
here.
the game winner, and he's the only one that knows it's in, and no one else knows it's in. Which I'm not gonna lie, it's really cool and all that he's the only one that knows, but it makes this moment kind of like crappy. I'm not gonna lie. Like
Yeah, I kind of
it
get
would
the
have been
same
so
thing.
much more powerful if everyone knew right away. Like if it was
Yeah.
just so instant, like boom, because we don't have OT winners anymore, in Stanley Cups. It hasn't happened in a long time that we had an OT winner. I think
Yeah,
that was
honestly, I know this is going to be painful, but I think the last time it happened was
yeah, I
when.
know what you're gonna say, Josh. Shut the hell up. All right. We both know what you're gonna say.
Hey,
Okay.
you think I want
And
to be
that one,
saying that as a Rangers fan? Be honest with me.
just
Do you
shut
think
the
I
hell
want to
up,
be saying
Josh.
that?
All right.
I
No,
mean, let's see. Did it happen against the Caps? No. Did it happen against the Bruins? No. Did it happen against the Penguins either time? Not against, like with the Penguins either time? No. And
and it
didn't
didn't
happen
happen
with
with the Black.
Tampa.
Yeah, you're right, Josh. Very good. Which is why it sucks because I'm sure as a Kings fan, that's probably their favorite moment ever because it was so like cool and all, but it sucked. All right.
You know
It
what's
sucked.
crazy? Of their like 8 Stanley Cup final wins, like games, not wins. They don't have 8 Stanley Cups, but the last 2 times they won the cup, I think 4 of the 8 games they won,
We're in
sorry,
overtime.
5 of the 8 games they won
We're in
were in
overtime.
overtime.
Which
And
is
that's
what
ridiculous.
bothers me because all these crap heads from LA think they were so much better than New York, and it's just wrong because almost every game was in OT. So it really could have gone over either
And
way.
they didn't lead. They didn't lead I'm nearly positive they did not lead in any one of those games until they scored the game-winning
Like
goal.
I know these people like these schmucks who are Devils fans, like, oh yo, we lasted long. I'm like, dude, you got blown out in the last game. You didn't even have a chance. What was it, like 6-2? Like
I don't even remember.
we were no, I know
Probably
for a
that
fact.
bad.
We were in every game. But anyway, that for the fact that people just didn't realize it was in, that makes it actually that's definitely not the best one,
Yeah, it
right?
does suck.
So
It does
for
suck.
me, it's like this is the most obvious choice. Okay. So as you know, they played in 3 Stanley Cups, and this was the semis. Boom.
Yeah.
Right there, right? It's so as we know, boom.
Yeah.
Basically, just some background. They went to 3 Stanley Cups. They were sandwiched between the 2 Kings ones. So every year they had a King rivalry with the Kings in the Western Conference Final. This one is just big, man. They're double overtime. Whoever wins this goes to Stanley Cup. If the Kings win 3 years in a row, if the Blackhawks win, boom. Just like, and the best part is about it is that it's so quick. I love his
Yeah,
selling.
he just flat out, yeah.
He's a great Sally, and it's Kane at Taves, which is something we just never saw a lot of. For some reason, they just never wanted them to play together except on the power play. But then in overtime, he said, screw it. Our 2 best guys are going to play
Yeah,
together.
like let's break up this dynasty. Like, who cares,
Like, I love that they did that, especially because, like, I'm sick of the Kings fans thinking they were hot shit. Like, they didn't even win 3. So, like, relax, buddy. Like,
Well, 2 Stanley Cups in 3 years is impressive,
it
but
obviously,
yeah.
but like, if we're being honest, a lot of that was more on quick. It wasn't like the whole team was
Yeah, no, that's very fair to say.
like
Um,
Blackhawks. Like it made sense because they had like
they had
Tate,
an overall team. Like
Heath. Like
Crawford was
Crawford's
a good
actually the
goalie.
worst player I think on their team. I think he's like the least impactful guy that
And the
helped.
fact that he was still what he was is just
No,
like
he was good and all, but he was never a top 10 goalie in my opinion. Like
Corey Crawford, really?
all right, maybe let me rephrase that. Sorry, top 5.
He
He
was
was top 5.
definitely a top 10 goalie. Don't
All right,
get me
not
wrong.
top
I
5.
would argue he was even like the back end of a top 5 goalie in
No,
the
I
NHL.
don't think he was top 5. Is what I mean to say. Quick,
Okay, top 5. Top
quick
5. I
was
want to hear your top 5 from that time, not in order. Okay.
Okay, fine, easy. Carey Price,
Yeah.
Lundqvist,
Yeah.
Jonathan Quick.
Yeah.
I think Holtby was pretty good then.
Holtby was trash until the mid part of the
Fine,
decade.
Fleury for sure.
Fleury, fine. That's 4.
And then what about Rene?
I don't think he was in the league that early.
Okay, Cam Ward. Cam Ward was still pretty good then.
I would say Crawford
He
is
was an
better.
all-star that year. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Fine,
Corey
Rask.
Crawford won 2
Rask.
Stanley Cups in 3 years.
I
Tuukka
could
Rask, he didn't get it done. I mean, he won 1 Stanley Cup. He also lost one to Corey Crawford. So
Okay, I'll think of
Crawford won
something.
2. I would put Crawford at 5 or 6, to be quite honest there. Maybe you can make an argument
What?
that, look, hear me out. Maybe, just maybe, you could make an argument that who was oh man, why am I blanking? No, why am I blanking? Team from the East. I mean, not from the East.
Wait a second. What about Brian Elliott? That dude was amazing. He was great. He
No,
was
who
great
am I
then.
thinking of? Who am I thinking of? He
What
was the
about
goalie.
Ryan
No.
Miller? Martin Brodeur. Brodeur was a
No, he wasn't great toward look, he didn't carry the Devils down the playoffs in that year, though. That was all Kovalchuk and Henrique and Parise. Like,
That's true.
oh my gosh. He's in the Western Conference, but he's not a oh my gosh.
Oh man. Now you're bothering me.
Oh, Jimmy Howard. The Red Wings
Yeah,
were a dynasty back
Detroit.
then.
You know Detroit was good then. You know Detroit was still good then. You know,
Yes, it was Howard. I would debate
Howard was
Jimmy Howard.
definitely a top 5 goalie at the time. I could actually believe that. They were still in their streak then. They were still very good. They still had
Yes.
Zetterberg and Datsuk and everybody. Jimmy
Yeah,
Howard
he
for
retired
sure.
recently, and I was like, who was their goalie? Because it wasn't Mrazek, and I knew that. And I knew Howard
I would
was
not
the time
put
they won those
Mrazek.
cups.
I would not
So,
put.
yeah, but it was Jimmy Howard. He was who I was thinking
But
of.
that's what I'm saying. Like they had 5 better goalies than him. Jimmy Howard was definitely better than.
Now, I'm saying Crawford could be debating, though, I think 5.
I don't think he's top 5. I think
Okay, whatever.
I
Look,
think
that's
Jimmy
beyond
Howard was
the
just
point.
better. I think Blackhawks just had way more star power with Taves, Kane, Hossa, Seabrook, Keith, Saad, Sharp. Like
Yeah,
Ladd,
whatever.
Shaw.
Okay, whatever.
Like you
Bottom
can't
line
name
is,
that many guys on the Red Wings,
okay, look, the bottom line being that Patrick Kane, above yeah, no, it's crazy how much of a tangent we just went on. Patrick Kane is going down as one of the greatest players of all time eventually, whenever he retires. And he's not even super old yet. He still has at least another good 5 years left. How old is he right now? 32, 33, I want to say. And watch him be 29 now. 32. Okay. So he's 32 years old. He's got at least
39. No way.
he's got at least a good 5 years left in him. So I'm open to see a lot. I honestly think I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. I think he'll hit the 1,500 point mark. I honestly think he can. I know he hasn't been past 1,000 for that long, but I mean, look, he's probably going to end up with a little more than 500 goals by the end of his career. If I had to guess, he's good for at least 30, 35 goals a season. And if he keeps playing the way he is this season in a shortened season, then I mean, come on, we already know what's going to happen.
Josh, I thought of something.
And what's that?
I thought of a mock draft, right? Not a trade, because you just gave me a great idea. Everyone doesn't shut the hell up about how good they think Jack Eichel is. Yeah, he's great, but apparently there's no trade offer that would work for Jack Eichel. But then I thought dawned on me, why not trade a package with Patrick Kane and some other guys for Jack Eichel? Because we all know Jack Eichel probably wants to get the hell out of Buffalo, and we all know that out of every single player in the NHL, the only one I think would actually be okay going to Buffalo is the guy that freaking used to live there and used to root for the team, and that's Patrick Kane. So
who knows? I wouldn't want to see him in Buffalo, and that's not even just because of the division realignment. I just think he wouldn't want to. Why would he want to be in the hellhole that Eichel is in?
I just told you why.
No, I know why, but they still have something to compete for in Chicago, at least.
Come on, man. This team's all right, but do you really think this team is still competitive enough to win a Stanley Cup?
No, but I think they're a hell of a lot more competitive than Buffalo, to say the least. So there you have it.
Which is why I think it would work out for both teams, because
I don't think it would.
I think so.
The Blackhawks don't need much center depth. Don't forget, you've got Strome, you've got Taves, You've got Kirby Doc.
But you don't have Taves and you don't have Kirby Doc. They're both injured.
I'm saying, like, they on paper, look, those guys aren't going to be gone
we
forever.
can't go through on paper all the time.
And they're playing well without them now. So just imagine what it'll be like when they come back. Like, look, that's my argument. I wouldn't be a fan of it. I'd like to see Kane stay in Chicago. I think he's made a home for himself there. I mean, I don't think he's made a home for himself there. It's clear. It's not a question. And he's got plenty more left in his tank. Trust me.
I mean, but he's got nothing left to prove. Like, nothing. He's already won the Stanley Cups. He's won the Hart, Rocky Richard. He's done all the All-Star games. He's led the league in scoring. Like, he's done all the things he's had to do. Nothing left to do but ride it out, man.
I don't have anything to say. I hope he doesn't go to Buffalo. That's just me.
So who's going to get Jack Eichel, in your opinion?
I don't know. They should just honestly, they should just let him walk.
Why would they let him walk when they could get him for stuff?
No, I'm saying, like, what's it called? If they can't get him for anything, then it sucks to be them. He's just going to walk.
Huh.
I'm saying, like, what? Like, why would he care at this point? They've done almost everything they can. They brought in Eric Stahl. They brought in Taylor Hall. They've improved the defense. You got Colin Miller now, one of the better offensive defensemen in the league, and even pretty good still defensively. He's one of the hardest shots in the NHL, if not currently the hardest shot, because Shea Weber's shot is still declining a little bit. So I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, the Sabres are kind of trash. The only good thing they have is Jack Eichel offensively, Rasmus Dahlin defensively, and Linus Ullmark at least looks like he's got a lot of promise in that. But other than that, they completely just suck. Sam Reinhart, too. I forgot. Like, we should give him credit. He's also pretty good. And Victor Olofsson. But they don't have anything past that. It's literally just Rasmus Dahlin.
Dylan Cousins.
Yeah, I think it's still a little too young. Like, he's not hitting that. He's a highly rated prospect. I think he's got a lot still to come, and he's definitely going to eventually hit that mark. But he didn't hit the ground running like Jack Eichel did, or Olofsson did, or Sam Reinhart did yet. You know what I mean? Like, and he was drafted higher than almost all those guys. The only one he wasn't drafted higher than was Jack Eichel, because he was number 2 behind Connor McDavid. Eichel would have been the number 1 overall pick in almost any other draft. You know? There are only 2 guys that come to mind right now that he wouldn't be the number 1 overall pick ahead of, and that's Nathan McKinnon and Austin Matthews. Like,
100%.
I just but he'd probably be the number 1 overall pick, ahead of Aaron Ekblad. Like, no offense. He'd be ahead of Nico Hischier. No offense. He'd probably be ahead of Jack Hughes. No offense. I don't know about Lafreniere just yet, but the bottom line is
because the comparisons Lafreniere has had before draft day.
It's ridiculous.
Eichel had nothing close to comparisons like that. So
yeah, so whatever. Lafreniere's too young to compare, but McKinnon's not. He'd also go ahead of Rasmus Dahlin. What am I even saying? That's what I would have to think.
His teammate, he would be drafted ahead of his own teammate.
Whatever.
I feel like the problem is they don't have any good coaches. You have Gerard Gallant out on the free agent market. I don't know why they don't just fire this guy, whoever the hell their coach is, and just pick up Gerard Gallant. We know what Gallant did with the Golden Knights in 1 year. Think about what he did with Buffalo.
Well, really in a year and a half or 2 years.
But just think about what he could do for any other team, even Buffalo. Even the best coaches can make the worst teams a playoff team.
Yeah, like Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks.
Exactly. That's the first thing I thought about. I'm I like our players, but the only reason we're where we are is because of Tibbs. That's it. Otherwise we would not be where we are. Because it doesn't matter if you have all the talent in the world. If you don't have a good coach or manager, in baseball, you're not going to win. You're just not, You have Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez, Wilson Contreras, and Jason Hayward. All those guys still pretty good. But David Ross is their manager. He did okay. He got. But
they had Madden and they won World Series before.
That was after. That was before. But David Ross got them to the playoffs in an expanded playoffs, and they were okay, but they didn't even win. They lost to the freaking Marlins.
Yeah. And the Marlins, Don Mattingly, we know, excellent manager, brought a team as bad as the Marlins.
I can't even name people on their roster except for Brian Anderson. I don't know who the hell's on their roster on the top of my head. Like they don't have great players, but they got through it because Mattingly is one of the best managers in the game.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Well, not to get tied away from the sport though. Like, yes, I see your point. The coach, they should go out and get a new coach if they can't do whatever. We've spent a lot of time on this tangent. I want to get to the next thing, and the next couple things are very short before we head on to Rangers talk. Joey, if you want to go up ahead and pull up the West Division standings. Yeah, the Minnesota Wild are in second place. I don't know if you noticed that recently, but there's been a very special performer on that team, and his name is Kirill Kaprizov. And he's a monster. He's a monster. If he's not a lock right now to win the Calder, I don't know who is. Because while I'd love to see it be Keandre Miller or Alexi Lafreniere or even Igor Shesterkin, who's still eligible to win it, like Kaprizov has just been on another level. I mean, like, I know it's a very hot debate whether or not he should be eligible for the Calder, considering the fact he's played in the KHL for a bunch of years prior to actually coming up. But look, he was on the World Juniors team in Russia back during the 2016-17 season, the NHL season I'm talking about. That was the year he was the captain of Russia and they lost to USA in the semifinals. But we know he's got talent, and we know it's been 3 or 4 years since then. So, obviously it is a heated debate, but he's eligible the same way Igor Shesterkin is because he's also taken a lot of time since getting drafted to come up. He was drafted back in 2014, and it's 2021 right now, and he's playing in his rookie season, even though he played 12 games last year, but that doesn't make him eligible. He's still eligible, pardon me. So Kirill Kaprizov right now is on another level, and it's great to see like this Wild team, this young Wild team is starting to put it back together the way they were about 2 or 3 years ago when they were led by the guys like Parise and Suter, Mikhail Granlund, and Matt Dumba, and a lot of those pieces still on the team, the only one not being Granlund. But if you look at that team when those guys were a lot younger, and Pominville was up and coming back at that time, he's now the captain. You've got Parise, you've got Suter. They had Eric Howler, who was a great piece. He's been a little bit on the decline recently since leaving Minnesota, but still had him. Jason Pominville toward his last really productive years as a player, and Thomas Vanek in his right in the middle of his prime. Like, they were a set team. Now they're young and up and coming, and I'm starting to see a lot because the veteran guys like Suter and Parise are, helping lead the way through the times you need that experience to come back, and to help these younger guys out. And the younger guys are really stepping up, like Kevin Fiala, Kirill Kaprizov. And I know I mentioned Spurgeon. He's been with this team for a few years already, but he's still very young. So it's great to see that. Stalock is getting better as the time goes along. Cam Talbot, still a little shaky, but he knows what it takes to win in big moments. He's been the starter with competitive teams, and he's learned from some of the best, like Henrik Lundqvist. We know, obviously, he was a huge reason the Rangers won the President's Trophy that year, even though you wouldn't think that, but he was. And then you've also got guys who are right in the middle of their prime stepping up. Guys right now like Matt Zuccarello is really the name that comes to mind, because if not for him, he was just named as one of the 3 stars of the week this past week. And he's been through it all, both emotionally, as obviously it wasn't easy for him to leave New York and even to leave Dallas. He liked playing in Dallas after, and with his absence, they went to the finals. Just imagine they could have won it. The same reason, like the Rangers argue, oh, we were without Zuccarello in 2015, like that he could have changed that team a lot, and they could have won the entire thing that year. Like, if not for him last year leaving, like Dallas also could have won the Stanley Cup, you could argue. I know Tampa Bay was a juggernaut, but we know Dallas, and the reason they brought in those experienced guys like Pavelski and Corey Perry. Either way, the bottom line being you have guys really helping out this team who are not on the older end, and they're the ones who are really providing that spark. You've also got guys on this team, though, like Ryan Hartman, and they're also doing this with their captain, or their former captain, who was a huge part and really kept that entire forward core together, even though only playing with 2 others at a time. Mikko Koivu, don't forget, he was, not the greatest player in terms of skill. He was a very good leader, I think. And, unfortunately, he's not with that team right now. And I'm sure they still miss his presence. But Jared Spurgeon has done an excellent job in stepping up. So they're 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 6 in a row. What do you like? what do you have to say about this? Goals for versus goals allowed is a plus 13 now. They were like, I think -3 last week or 2 weeks ago. So what do you think? They've only played 18 games also. They're behind like most of the guys. Like they're one of like 3 or 4 teams in their division who hasn't played 20 or more games yet.
Yeah, so you brought up a point I was going to make that you were seeming to not mention until just now, is that they haven't played as many games as other teams. So that actually is a big decider on where they will stand at the end of next week, because they could go down or they go higher. But you can't go higher than 1. Although I'm not going to lie to you, I think they're doing great. I don't think there's a chance in hell, even with the way they're playing, that they're gonna outshine the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I don't think that either.
Like,
The Knights have played the least amount of games in that division, but they're still a lock in first place. Like, it's crazy.
yeah, and like they also have played one less game than them, so they have the tie break. Like they have the edge anyway. They have the extra game. But what really stands out to me, so you mentioned it, Kaprizov, Calder. Let's be honest here. The Rangers have like the best candidates for Calder. If it wasn't for this guy, Kaprizov, those 3 guys who, if you're being honest, are actual rookies, should really be Calder guys.
Well, I don't know about Shesterkin just yet, because Shesterkin's kind of in the same boat to me as Kaprizov debate-wise. Because he was
I think it's a little different because he still played in the AHL and stuff, so he was still relegated to
right. Fair.
Like he didn't play consistently the whole time in a major league setting. He still played in Hartford.
Right. That's fair.
But Kaprizov just for years on end just kept playing in the second professional league in the world. He never stopped playing there. He never went down to AHL or the world or the juniors or none of that. So it's a little different. But whatever, you want to give it to him, it's fine, but just acknowledge that it's asterisk, it's just not, he's not a real rookie. He's played with real men. He's played in a real league. He doesn't play in the OHL or the Canadian Hockey League or the A. He doesn't play in those. So whatever, if you want to give it to him, but just acknowledge that there are people who are more deserving of the word rookie, or you could describe more as rookie than him.
Yeah.
With all that being said, though, mad respect to this guy. They got a guy who's NHL ready, obviously. So, having a guy like that helps your team a lot. Matt's, obviously, we know he made Henrik cry.
And we miss him dearly in New York. We really do. He was a huge part of the franchise back.
We know in 2015, he probably would have been the difference maker because he was injured, and I have a huge feeling if him and McDonough were in, we would probably have beaten the Lightning and maybe even beaten the Blackhawks. I know we all talk about Patrick Kane, but I think we had a much better team than the Blackhawks on paper, at least. At least the goaltending. We all know Hank was better than Crawford. We could all agree on that.
In my opinion, he should have won the Calder. Not the Calder, pardon me, the Norris.
That
is not. Oh my gosh, that's the 3rd time. That was pathetic on my part. Pardon me for that.
Yes, it was, and I will not.
He was the best goal. I know, look, playoffs don't really get counted into that too much. So for that reason, obviously, that also didn't help that he was out, a month plus during the regular season with the injury, because otherwise he would have had a fair chance to win it. But no, he didn't, and that's just it.
Yeah, but what happened? I feel like people thought when he got injured we were gonna be out of the playoff race, but then
and if anything, him getting out. I mean, obviously, I don't want to pride the fact that he was out, but the fact that he was out is the whole reason that they were as hot as they were for that month in time span.
Right, because they were led by the guy who is between the pipes from Minnesota now, which is probably a big reason why they're playing like this, is Cam Talbot. He's kind of been on the decline in the past few years, whether it's in Edmonton or Calgary, but he's always been serviceable and seems to be doing a pretty good job. I mean, I don't know, what the hell are their options? Staylock? That's it, right?
Well, he's still proving. He's still a young goalie, and he's getting better as time goes along. So we'll see. We'll we'll see how that goes in the future. But anyway, yeah, that's really just it. I want to touch on one thing real quick in the North Division before we wrap it up with the Rangers news, because there's not much to talk about here, and that's the Montreal Canadiens. They've been complete trash recently. Like, we're not going to get into reasons why. We're not going to break it down. Just Joey, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, Freed is probably crying right now. I don't know. Like yeah, but like, let's just be honest here. Like, okay.
They were like 7-1 in their first 8 games.
Let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. You and I are guilty. All right. We drank the Kool-Aid. Okay. We said okay. Well, not entirely. Maybe you did more than me, but we both agreed.
Yeah, I did say I think the Canadiens.
We both agreed the Canadiens had the best offseason out of any other team. And I went as far as saying they're probably going to be the second best team in this division. They're going to beat the Oilers out because I think the Leafs would just have too much power to just leave first.
Yeah.
You know? But I think you were you drank too much. I think you got like super inebriated and was like, they're gonna beat the Leafs in the standings. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think you said that, right?
Yeah, this is why we're touching on it right now.
Okay, I just want to point out that you were like way off.
I did, and I'll admit it. And yeah, they seem to be a super streaky team. They'll win 5 in a row, then they'll lose 6 in a row.
But let's be honest here. I forgot to mention this actually because this might be a reason why they lost. But Claude Julien was just fired. Forgot we didn't talk about it so much, but yeah, they fired him. And he was on that team for a while, so that might be a huge thing. He might have been part of the problem, which is what resulted in his firing. And now that they don't have a real replacement, which gets me back to my previous point, hire Gerard Gallant. Some team better get him, otherwise you're idiots. Okay, don't hire Mike. What?
I mean, Claude Julien's still one of the best coaches in the NHL. So
no, I know, but I'm talking about the Canadiens. I'm just saying.
Oh.
I'm saying like someone should hire Gerard Gallant. Like hell, if we fired Quinn, I would take Gallant. Like just he's one of the best coaches I've ever seen play in the last 3 years. Coach in the last 3 years. He was fantastic. What he did with the Knights was just unprecedented. No one's ever had a season like that. You know what's probably gonna happen, and it'd be really funny. Seattle picks him up.
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
I won't be surprised.
But yeah, we covered Central, we covered West, and we're closing out with North. Just like it's a bit of a shock. But what does it say about Carey Price? He might be on his way out. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and they're still paying him $10.5 million. So
yeah. By the way, I laughed at when that contract was announced. Like, what was it, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, what was it, like a 10-year contract or something for a goalie? I'm like, are you crazy? I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's like the ghost of Patrick Waugh. Like, you don't pay someone that many years of contract. I don't care how good he is. Because then when he's in the back end of his career, you're going to regret it. And I think they're starting to have buyer's remorse on this. So yeah, that sucks.
So yeah, we've hit all the divisions except for the East Division. So let's go ahead and touch on that real quick. We're going to talk about the Rangers. Joey, the standings haven't changed too much with them. They've been hovering in the bottom 6 spots recently, a little more towards the top. But let's point out some gold stars right now. Ever since we talked about it, right? Obviously, they had the Flyers loss and the Bruins lost from Sunday, but they also beat the Bruins. And meanwhile, how about the fact that they're doing all this without Panarin? They're playing well without him. They're starting to get more comfortable without him. The power play has, believe it or not, been better without Panarin than it has been with. They've scored power play goals in, what is it? If you go back to the schedule, if you can go back to that for a second, I could tell you real quick, because they didn't score one against the Devils. After that, they had power play goals in 4 straight games.
Yeah.
All of them, 2 of them without Panarin, but Panarin wasn't part of either of the power play goals. He was part of one of them in the Capitals game, but in 3 of those 4 games, wasn't part of the power play goals that the Rangers scored. Kreider had a hat trick, all 3 on the power play, all without Artemi Panarin, even though they eventually lost that game. And then on Friday, even though Panarin didn't play, they routed the Bruins 6-2 at the Garden for the first time with the Rangers having fans in attendance since The Garden was allowing fans for the Knicks. The Rangers were on the road in Philadelphia back when that happened, and in Washington. But that being said, obviously yesterday's loss was a bit brutal. And that's what we're going to focus on a little bit more, because tomorrow night they get the Buffalo Sabres in what's going to be the third matchup of the year and the first one at MSG. I think that's a game they can take from them. The Sabres have been playing very bad recently. Excuse me. But let's touch on yesterday's loss. What are things to take away from it? Obviously, the second chance scoring opportunities. They had a lot of those the last 4 or 5 games against the Flyers, Capitals, even the Devils, because that game didn't get away from them until mid to late in the third period. The Bruins, and they play another team. No, they played the Caps once, Flyers twice, Bruins twice. Okay, so either way. And you saw second chance scoring opportunities against the Bruins on Friday night. That's how they were able to put together a lot of goals. Yesterday in the afternoon against the Boston Bruins, there really wasn't much, and they didn't start to see much until the third period. They were talking about it on the broadcast. Kenny Albert saw, not much second chance scoring opportunities. And when they started getting those, that was really in the later half of the third period, in the second half, when Lafreniere led that beautiful rush up the ice where he dropped off to Blackwell, who scored. I was a bit confused on the 4-on-4. I thought it only should have been a penalty against Boston because Blackwell didn't go over to hit him. I don't know if you saw that, but
it was a follow through.
Him for roughing, and it was 4-on-4, so I can get behind the fact that at least they penalized Boston because he wasn't the only one. But I just can't get behind the fact that he penalized that they penalized.
Let's be honest, man. It's hard to listen to those broadcasts. I mean,
look, the broadcasters were saying Kenny Albert, and I think it was Brian Boucher was the partner, was also saying, I can't get behind the fact either that they penalized Blackwell for that. That was his momentum. He didn't skate over to the guy. He turned away, and the Bruins guy just fell down, and he was right there, and he initiated the contact. He slashed Blackwell, and you saw Blackwell just look down at him and point to him with his stick. He didn't touch him or anything, but
yeah, Blackwell didn't even hit him. He just dropped his stick.
Yeah, it just whatever. It is what it is. But they did get that penalty late, and they almost capitalized. But the empty net is the empty net. What I did take behind, though, was Patrice Bergeron right before that sequence cross-checked Blackwell behind his own goal a good 5 times. Brian Boucher from inside the glass. That's where he was in the game. He was at the Garden, and he said, Patrice Bergeron just got away with a good 5 cross-checks behind the net on Colin Blackwell. And he's lucky they didn't get out with a penalty on that, because that would have been 5-on-3. Then it could have been a 6-on-3 because the Rangers also had their net empty. And you saw Zibanejad just missed once and Kreider just missed once. They were getting their chances. So I want to give props. At least they don't make it easy. The Rangers don't make it easy without Panarin on you, even though a lot of teams would think it'd be a lot easier. So I do just want to say that. And one of the last things to hand out in terms of the good things, I'm going to hand out a gold star once again to the man we've talked about, Colin Blackwell, who has been nothing shy of spectacular. Started his season with this team on the 4th line, and he slowly but very effectively worked his way up. And what is it now? 6 goals for him. He's had a goal in 3 of the last 4 games, 5 of the last 6 games. I think if you scroll up, he had the one against the Bruins yesterday. He had one on Friday. He didn't have one on Thursday against the Flyers. Not Thursday. He didn't have one on Wednesday against the Flyers, but he did have a lot of scoring chances. So he was very that's a game, honestly, the Rangers should have won. There was just a lot of sloppy defense. And he had a goal against the Capitals. He had a goal in that game against the Flyers. They won with a shootout, and he had a goal against the Devils. I think that was his first game remaining. So he has goals in 5 of his last 6 games, and he makes things happen. He's a gritty player. They talk about he's got some good speed, but he's not a superstar scorer, and he's playing like he is. He's creating havoc. He's going to the dirty areas of the ice, and he's around for second chance goals and deflections and leading the rush up the ice. And I think the Rangers have really been missing that really ever since the time that they had the guy we talked about before, which was Matt Zuccarello. Zuccarello's not a big guy. He's not a big guy at all. And, he would have that ability, to make those flashy passes, and he had very good hands, we know. But he wasn't really he would be that player who's, because he's a bit on the smaller side, to fit into those areas, that a lot of players wouldn't expect players to be going and find those second chance opportunities. So there and other than that, like the Rangers happen to just have a lot of left-handed offensemen on this team. Howden, Hedel, Lemieux, Phil DiGiuseppe, Chris Kreider, Pavel Buchnevich, Kakko, Lafreniere. And the only right-handed shots you think of on this team, really, beside for Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad, are just Ryan Strome and now Colin Blackwell, because Julian Gauthier is out of the lineup every other night, and they don't have anything else. So it's nice to see that they're getting that level of play, from a guy who's who's a bit harder to defend, I think, because they're so used to defending, guys coming down from the left side. But anyway, yeah, that's what we have to touch on for the Rangers. At least that's all I have. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
I mean, how are we not going to talk about the fact that the game before we smoked the hell of the Bruins? Like, come on, you got to talk about it. I know because first of all, Panarin was not in this game. So that's the first thing that bothers me, because I thought we were going to lose for sure. I thought we were going to get a sweep, 2-0 down against the Bruins, and we're just going to be really sad. But not only did we not lose the first game, we destroyed them. They weren't even in contention in the third period, man. They were just out of it. I mean, Ryan Strome had a hell of a night, 3 points.
Yeah.
Okay, goal and 2 assists.
He continues to play well, and even without Panarin got him going in Buffalo, and now he's going without Panarin. It's great to see.
Right. And then Adam Fox, playing amazing every single game. Dude, literally.
He's a workhorse. He steps up to the challenge.
He is so NHL ready. It's insane. It's only his second year, and he already knows exactly what he wants to do. Kreider, I don't think as highly as Kreider as most Rangers fan, but I gotta hand it to him, man. He's still finding ways to score. Buchnevich, man, he's on a tear, man. He's scoring like every other game. It's great. Good for him. A little bit surprised by goals, but not surprised by Colin Blackwell. That was great. Seeing him score again, he's great. He's on a roll. Right. But the biggest surprises to me were goals by DiGiuseppe, who's great, but not really a scorer to me. And Johnny Brodzinski, right? Just scoring his first goal ever. And that was actually a pretty cool goal. He went like he did a slip and slide, boom,
Yeah. And pardon me, Kevin Rooney, another left-handed shot.
No, he had a great pass to Brodzinski on that goal. Great pass by Rooney. Anyway, they're just doing a great job, I a lot of defensemen getting, and Lafreniere had a great pass to who was
the pass to Ryan Strome. Yeah, that was his first.
That was a beauty.
First NHL assist and his first point at Madison Square Garden. So props to him. He's starting to heat up. He was another thing I want to talk about, but we're not going to talk about it because we have gone pretty long today in terms of time. So I think we're ready to wrap it up right about now.
Yeah. So just in closing, I like our chances in the next few games. We're playing the Sabres, Devils, and the Penguins. These teams, I think we were better than all these other teams. I think we're not going to have a problem until we play the Bruins over here in 2 weeks. So I think we're good. I think we're good for now. Best of luck. Let's go Rangers.
Yeah. So anyway, that wraps it up today for the JJ Sports podcast. And, we hope that you really enjoyed this episode. We enjoy making this content for you. If you stayed this entire time, you are an absolute trooper, and we greatly appreciate it. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Do you want to see any other types of new content that we can pump out? Any new segments, any ideas for how we can distribute the information per segment? And, let us know what you think on our takes. And, that's about it. For the final time, signing off tonight for the JJ Sports Podcast, I'm Josh.
I'm Joey.
And thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.